We're about to dig into one of the most volatile conflicts on the planet, but probably not in the way you're used to thinking about it.
So have you ever considered that the world's most dangerous conflict isn't really about land, but about two completely incompatible realities? This analysis completely shifts the perspective on why this conflict is so intractable. It suggests it's because both sides are operating from two entirely different and, frankly, self-contained logical systems.
Welcome to Strategic Labs. If you're looking for tactical insights like these, go ahead and like and subscribe.
All right, first up, let's unpack Pakistan's logic. You have to understand, this is a strategic framework that wasn't born out of a desire for aggression. It comes from a really deep-seated perception of injustice and a massive structural disadvantage.
This quote right here, this is the key to understanding their entire mindset. We didn't choose this kind of war. We adapted to our disadvantage. Their approach isn't about trying to match India symmetrically. It's all about compensation.
So for Pakistan, the story starts here, with the core belief that the Kashmir issue was never legitimately settled. They argue the 1947 accession to India was forced, the key UN resolutions were just ignored, and because of that, in their view, India isn't a sovereign defender, it's an occupier of disputed territory. This is their ground zero. Now, you take that core belief and you combine it with a huge structural imbalance. We're talking population, economy, conventional military power, and it basically forces Pakistan into a corner. Their answer is asymmetric warfare. It's a strategy born out of necessity, from knowing that a conventional head-to-head war with India is simply unwinnable. And these are the tools of that strategy. You're looking at indirect warfare, aggressive intelligence ops, and, this is critical, the use of non-state actors. Now, from Pakistan's point of view, these aren't just rogue elements. They're seen as instruments of pressure, carefully designed to keep the conflict simmering, without letting it boil over into a full-scale war.
Okay, let's flip the coin. India's logic is the complete inverse. It's not rooted in a dispute at all. It's rooted in what they see as absolute settled sovereignty and the constant threat of state-sponsored terrorism.
This quote pretty much sums up the entire Indian narrative. For them, this conversation is not, and never has been, about a dispute over land. It is about constant, illegal, and violent interference in their internal affairs, period.
India's whole position is built on this foundation. The 1947 accession of Kashmir was legal, it was final, and that chapter is closed. Any attempt to reopen it isn't seen as a negotiation, it's seen as a direct attack on their national sovereignty.
So you see where this is going. What Pakistan calls asymmetric warfare or instruments of pressure, India relabels unequivocally. It's not a strategy. It's state-sponsored terrorism, and that isn't just a difference in words. It completely reframes the entire conflict, shifting it from a political dispute to a national security crisis. And this logic extends all the way to their nuclear posture. India's official no-first-use policy is specifically designed to project an image of a responsible, stable, and predictable global power. It's a direct and deliberate contrast to Pakistan's ambiguity, which from India's perspective is just reckless and destabilizing. Okay, so we've established these two internally consistent but completely opposite logics. Now let's pinpoint the three most disruptive places where these two realities just collide head-on.
First and foremost, the very status of Kashmir. Pakistan sees an open, unresolved international dispute. India sees a closed, internal matter of its own territory. They aren't even having the same conversation. One side wants to talk self-determination, the other wants to talk sovereignty. There's literally no middle ground there.
Second, the violence itself. How do they label it? For Pakistan, it's framed as amplified local resistance, a necessary, maybe unofficial, tool to level an uneven playing field. For India, there's no nuance. It is pure terrorism, sponsored and directed by the Pakistani state to deliberately destabilize their country. Each label justifies their own actions and completely delegitimizes the others. And third, the nukes. Pakistan sees its arsenal and its ambiguous doctrine as the ultimate survival tool. It's the only thing, in their view, preventing a full-scale invasion by a much larger neighbor. Meanwhile, India views its no-first-use policy as the bedrock of regional stability, framing Pakistan's posture as a constant threat to that stability. One side uses ambiguity to deter, the other uses predictability to stabilize. Two clashing philosophies.
So what you end up with is a perfect, self-sustaining strategic deadlock. Nothing can ever get resolved because the two sides can't even agree on what the fundamental problem is in the first place.
Just look at this breakdown. On Kashmir, it's open dispute versus resolved territory. On strategy, it's necessary indirect war versus simply terrorism. And on their overall posture, it's survival through ambiguity versus stability through firmness. These are just fundamentally mutually exclusive belief systems.
And that brings us to the most crucial insight here. The conflict isn't locked in place because one side is right and the other is irrational. It's locked because both sides are operating from positions that are completely coherent and totally rational within their own worldview. It's a clash not just of armies, but of two realities that simply cannot coexist.
This is just a preview. For the full deep dive, check out our long-form podcast on the channel. See you in the next one.